Xie MingChuan's mistress ran away again. He was anxious and worried, gathering his men overnight. He personally went south to capture her. This time when I return, I want to give her a title. Before leaving, he informed me of this. Can you return home a bit earlier? I asked him softly. He impatiently took the document from my hand. Return home, do you really miss me that much? He signed his name, tossed the document aside, and left. In his haste, he didn't even notice. The document he just signed was our divorce agreement. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. In the 3rd year of my marriage with Xie MingChuan, he kept a mistress. The mistress's surname was Luo. Her name was Han Yan. Just like her personality. Standing alone like a cold branch, proud and unyielding. She refused to enter the mansion as a concubine. But she loved Xie MingChuan deeply and couldn't bear to part with him. After a while, feeling tormented, she fled the capital. Every time, Xie MingChuan would go crazy, searching everywhere. Once found, he would shower her with affection. Counting this time, it was her 3rd escape from the capital. Coincidentally, she chose my birthday. Madam, the Marquis is really leaving. As soon as Xie MingChuan left, Chunlan rushed into the room. Aren't you going to stop him? Didn't the Marquis promise you? Xie MingChuan promised to spend my 18th birthday with me. I prepared for a whole month because of this. Suddenly, I recalled my first meeting with Luo Hanyan. It was when Xie MingChuan had just returned from accompanying the emperor on a southern tour, and heard that a girl had saved his life. I asked Xie MingChuan to take me to thank her in person. She sat on the swing that Xie MingChuan had tied himself, as radiant as summer stars. But when Xie MingChuan turned away, she whispered in my ear with a laugh. So, even those unloved have the face to be the Marquis's wife? Are you sure you can compete with me? There's no need to compete. I never could compare to her. I smiled, putting away the divorce agreement on the table. Chunlan, my dowry list, it should still be around? My parents died early, my dowry wasn't much, but it wasn't little either. All these years, I devoted myself to the Marquis's mansion, sharing everything with Xie MingChuan. I instructed Chunlan to check the list and mark everything that belonged to me. Under the cover of night, I sent them out of the mansion. I had the steward inventory the shops the Empress had gifted me and prepared to replace the staff. Then I asked the servants to erase all traces of me. Especially the flowers and plants I had planted in the mansion over the years. Finally, I personally packed my belongings. There actually weren't many things. Just some jewelry. When the Empress let me choose a husband, I worried Xie MingChuan had no interest in me, yet couldn't refuse the marriage. I gave him a sachet. He returned it with a piece of mandarin duck jade. I was so happy I couldn't sleep all night. This phoenix hairpin was given to me by Xie MingChuan on the day I returned to visit my family. He said that although I had no home to return to, I could always consider the Marquis's mansion as my own family home. I was moved to tears in secret. This matching pendant was given to me on the new year of our 1st year of marriage. Xie MingChuan brought it early in the morning. We each had one. This ring, this hairpin, this piece of green jade. He treated me so well once, making me believe he truly loved me. But it only lasted a year. Yao Qin, the mansion is so big, do you have to wait for me in the study? Yao Qin, I'm busy, go occupy yourself, okay? Xin Yao Qin. Aren't you annoying? Good things in the world are never lasting, colorful clouds scatter easily, and glass is fragile. Before Luo Hanyan appeared, Xie MingChuan was already tired of me. I left all the jewelry, clothes, and little trinkets that Xie MingChuan gave me in the room. I didn't want to upset the newcomer, so I burned the wedding dress directly. Half a month later, the shop changed hands and was no longer related to the Marquis's residence. The front yard and back garden were thoroughly cleaned as they should be. I rented a new house. On the day I moved out, Chunlan cried her heart out. Why not wait a little longer? How could the Marquis bear to let go of the madam? I'm not the madam anymore. I corrected her. I can't take your indenture directly. When he returns, I'll come to get you. I wiped away Chunlan's tears. Madam! Madam! The steward came rushing over, holding a letter with excitement. Madam, the Marquis sent a letter on horseback, insisting you open it personally. Chunlan's eyes lit up. The Marquis must have realized his mistake and wrote to apologize. Madam, quickly open it and see. I looked at the letter. Xie MingChuan hadn't written to me in years. Before we got married, it was those letters that made me fall for him. Madam, hurry! Chunlan urged impatiently. Such a thick letter, the Marquis must be sincerely remorseful. I pinched my palm and finally took the letter. I opened it. I have found Han Yan and will return to the capital soon. Han Yan has become quite thin. Prepare some osmanthus. She likes the osmanthus cake you make. Han Yan's courtyard can be arranged. She fears the cold and likes the sun. Han Yan doesn't like shoe brocade, only loves silk. Lake blue, willow green, crimson, and dark purple suit her. Han Yan's jewelry need not be excessive. She is simple and likes elegance. Han Yan. Pages upon pages, all about Han Yan. The last sentence, Han Yan is lonely, you should prepare her dowry, pay attention to it. 8 years of acquaintance, 3 years of marriage. The faint flame in my heart seemed to extinguish completely at this moment. These matters, I'm afraid you'll have to trouble yourself with them. I calmly handed the letter to the steward, turned around, and never looked back. Xie MingChuan had a group of old friends in Yangzhou. After finding Luo Hanyan, he didn't rush back. Firstly, Luo Hanyan loved to play and didn't want to return. Secondly, he had entrusted all wedding arrangements to Xie. Why hurry back? Marquis Xie is truly romantic, taking the newcomer to tour the south while the old one arranges the wedding in the capital. Wouldn't the lady be angry? Someone at the wine table brought up this topic. Immediately someone responded. Don't you know? Marquis Xie is adept at managing his wife. The lady is famously devoted to Marquis Xie. Not to mention marrying a concubine, she might even willingly demote herself to make room for the newcomer. Marquis Xie, am I right? Xie MingChuan raised his eyebrows. Indeed. Xie was obedient and compliant. Her eyes were full of him. The day he told her he was marrying Luo Hanyan, she showed no opposition. Instead, she urged him to return home early. She couldn't be without him for even half a day. Just then, the attendant pushed the door open. Xie MingChuan smiled and beckoned him over. Is it a reply from the lady? It was the first time he wrote to her from afar, entrusting such an important matter to her. She must be so happy she can't find her way. The attendant bowed, glanced at the few people at the table, hesitated. No worries, they are close friends, speak directly. The attendant lowered his head and replied. It's a message from Steward Wang, saying, the lady has left home. Left home? Yes, the lady packed her things, took the dowry, and left home. Xie MingChuan suddenly stood up. Pfft. Luo Hanyan, who had been quiet, suddenly laughed. Sister actually learned from me, throwing a little tantrum. But she is the Marquis's rightful wife, where can she go with the dowry? The next moment, her eyes reddened again. Ah, it's all my fault. So capricious, I've led sister astray. Marquis, let's go back quickly. If sister is so angry that she never returns to the Marquis's residence, it wouldn't be good. Xie MingChuan sneered. Not return to the Marquis's residence, return to her devouring Shen family? Shu Yue. He called the attendant, extend the room at the inn for another month. He wanted to see. Leaving home, where could she go, and for how long? According to our dynasty's laws, a woman cannot establish her own household. If she divorces, she can only return to her parents' home with her dowry. But my parents passed away early, and at 8 years old, I was fostered under my uncle and aunt's name. So-called parents' home is actually my uncle and aunt's house. When I got married, my uncle and aunt had already taken half of the property my parents left me. I don't want to go back there. Therefore, I didn't rush to the government office to submit the divorce papers but went to the palace instead. The Empress and my mother were old acquaintances. She added half to my dowry. You divorced Xie MingChuan? I don't know why. When Xie MingChuan signed the divorce papers without blinking, I didn't cry. When I left Marquis residence alone with my luggage, I didn't cry. But now, with the Empress's concerned question, my tears suddenly started to fall. Don't cry, it's good to leave. The Empress held me in her arms. Who in the capital doesn't know about that scoundrel's affairs? I quietly lay on the Empress's lap and gently wiped away my tears. Now that you're divorced, what are your plans? Actually, I rarely complained to the Empress. Whether it was being mistreated at the Shen family back then or the dissatisfaction after marrying Xie MingChuan. The Empress resides in the inner palace, with countless affairs at hand. I really don't dare to trouble her with my worries. But this time, I explained my difficulties thoroughly. I got up and knelt. So before finding a suitable candidate for remarriage, Yao Qin still needs to trouble your highness. If uncle and aunt are unreasonable, you've decided to remarry? The Empress suddenly asked. I nodded. If I have to return to the Shen family, I would rather remarry. But this time, I won't be moved, won't fall in love, won't seek harmony. Just for a place to settle. The Empress seemed to see through my thoughts and suddenly slapped her thigh. In this palace, there is an excellent candidate. Meng Yang, the only son of the general's residence. The Empress's direct nephew. Entered the battlefield at 13 and was conferred as a general at 18. The only problem is, at 21, he is still unmarried, not to mention having no offspring. But this sole problem, in the face of his family background and military achievements, is hardly worth mentioning. Ah. The Empress sighed. You don't know he. She shyly covered her mouth and whispered 3 words in my ear. I instantly understood. But I didn't expect it to be so soon. I had just agreed with the Empress to find an opportunity to meet him and see if we were suitable. The next day, for some unknown urgent matter at the border, he rushed north. Rumor has it that he ran non-stop, exhausting 3 horses. 7 days later, before dawn, he knocked on the door of my temporary residence. Actually, I've heard some of his rumors. The fierce little demon. The ghost general feared by all. But what I saw was a gentleman in white as snow, holding a paper fan, pointing at the moon about to set. I see today's moon is big and round. Oh no, that's not it. He cleared his throat and started anew. I observed today the moon is bright and stars are few, the moon is like a silver plate. The moonlight is like water, the wind is clear, the moon shadow dances, the osmanthus fragrance drifts. I came specifically to meet the lady. I almost laughed at his antics. The ghost general is skilled in martial arts, loves tearing books, and hates pretentiousness. It seems this marriage is truly a big concern for him. Is he actually worried I might not like him? General, no need to be reserved. I invited him inside. The Empress has already explained your situation to me, you can speak directly. I was actually prepared mentally. But I didn't expect him to be so direct. Aunt has told you everything? I nodded. He took a deep breath. These are the deeds to my land and properties, they will be managed by the lady in the future. These are all my silver deposits, at the lady's disposal. This is the divorce paper I've signed. In the future, if there's any dissatisfaction, the lady can use this document to regain freedom, and all under my name will belong to the lady. Please, Miss Shen. He presented that thick stack of documents. Without pausing for breath, marry Meng Yang as your husband. I agreed to Meng Yang. I couldn't think of a reason to refuse. Whether it's family background, appearance, or character, there's nothing wrong with him. If it weren't for those 4 words from the Empress, he wouldn't have married a woman who had been divorced. Just as well, I have no other intentions toward him. In a certain sense, could it be considered a match made in heaven? The next day, I went to the government office with Meng Yang to submit the divorce papers. The official looked at us, his mouth wide enough to fit an egg. He didn't dare to ask a single question, trembling as he handed me the household registration. On the 3rd day, the old general and his wife visited. The general's wife was extremely satisfied with me. She seemed to be relieved that her son finally found a girl he wanted to marry, pulling me close and looking me over with teary eyes. Before leaving, she took my birth date card. In less than half a month, Meng Yang and I set a wedding date. Meng Yang seemed very happy. Probably to make the marriage seem genuine, he personally handled everything. He often invited me out to play. I found him quite interesting. Clearly a carefree military officer, yet he always acted scholarly in front of me, like a literati. Afraid that if I saw his true nature, I might regret the marriage. That day, we were at the embroidery shop looking at wedding clothes. The shop owner refused to sell me the brocade no matter what. Seeing Meng Yang's anger rising, he raised his hand, ready to slam his waist badge on the table. He caught a glimpse of me. Ah, the weather is so nice today, sunny and clear, with a gentle breeze and spring in the air. Miss Shin, let's go boating on the lake. As we left the embroidery shop, I was still covering my mouth, laughing softly. My dear, don't laugh at me. The person beside me murmured softly. Suddenly, he gently held my hand. My heart skipped a beat. Just then, there was a commotion on the street. Marquis Xie returns to the capital. All irrelevant people, quickly make way. I was pushed back 2 steps. Looking up, I saw 2 horses leading the way. Xie MingChuan was on a horse behind them, followed by several carriages. A beautiful lady sat in front of him. Yao Qin. Seeing me, Xie MingChuan's eyes flashed with surprise. He urged his horse to come over. Luo Hanyan leaned over, Marquis. Xie MingChuan supported her. When he looked over again, it seemed he remembered something, a hint of arrogance in his eyes. Come here. He slightly raised his chin, looking down at me. Help my new wife off the horse. Street commotion. Public humiliation. I almost laughed out loud. I was about to step forward when I realized someone was pulling me, trying to shield me behind them. I turned back and held Meng Yang's hand, shaking my head at him. In public, I didn't want the general's family to be criticized because of me. I would handle my own affairs. Meng Yang looked down at my hand holding his, momentarily stunned. Shin Yao Qin, are you deaf? A crowd of people had gathered on the street, and Xie MingChuan probably hadn't seen Meng Yang. I took the opportunity to push him further back. I think it's not me who's deaf. I stepped forward, it's Marquis who's gone mad. You and I have clearly already. Shin Yao Qin. How dare you say I'm mad? Marquis. Luo Hanyan leaned coquettishly in Xie MingChuan's arms. Marquis, don't be angry with sister. It's Hanyan's fault for keeping Marquis away from the capital for so long, neglecting sister, which made sister upset with Marquis. Marquis. She clung to Xie MingChuan's clothes. Family matters should be handled at home, look at this. She shyly buried her head. Xie MingChuan looked around. It seemed he only then noticed the crowd of people surrounding them. Shin Yao Qin, look! Han Yan hasn't studied yet, is more sensible than you. You obediently go home and wait for me. He pointed his whip at me. After I send Han Yan off, I'll come back to settle accounts with you. With a flick of the whip, he rode off quickly with Luo Hanyan. It's simply laughable. I am no longer his wife, nor do I have any ties with his marquis residence. Why should I return to his residence and wait for him? I went straight back to my own home and closed the door. Closed the room door. Then closed the window. The calm mindset I've maintained for 2 months has finally been disrupted. It's okay. Even when a pet you've raised for many years dies, it's not easy to stay calm. Let alone someone you've loved for many years. Just give me a little more time, and it'll be fine. As I was thinking this, the window was opened slightly. A bobbing puppet squeezed in. With a pinched voice. Ah, what a beautiful day it is today, sunny, not a cloud in the sky, a gentle breeze, and spring is in the air. Miss, would you like to fly a kite on the rooftop? Meng Yang, this person. Although his scholarly demeanor is just an act. But after spending time with him, you'll find he's not as arrogant and terrifying as the rumors say. I went with him to the general's residence. He proudly showed me his exceptional light-footed skills. With a gentle hold on my waist, he easily took me to the rooftop. Then lightly tapped his toes, actually flying the kite on the rooftop. The spring breeze was gentle and warm. Looking at the kite freely soaring under the clear sky, it was surprisingly pleasant. Miss Shin, why do you like Xie MingChuan? Meng Yang suddenly asked me. With just a few words exchanged on the street earlier, he could see it. Xie MingChuan's indifference and contempt towards me. Why do I like Xie MingChuan? Back at the Shin residence, he was the only one willing to help me. Orphaned at a young age, living under someone else's roof. Uncle and aunt coveted my wealth, while cousins treated me like a servant. Only when my cousin brought Xie MingChuan to stay at the Shen residence each year, he would speak up for me. With him there, the Shen family would be more restrained. When he wasn't there, he would write to me, asking if I lacked anything and telling me to inform him if I was wronged. In times of isolation and helplessness, falling in love with the only warmth seemed natural. Oh, I see. Meng Yang, who was originally lying with his arms behind his head and legs crossed, turned over, facing away from me. He seemed inexplicably a bit lonely. To be fair, he also helped me once. It was the first year after my parents passed away. During New Year, I wore thick makeup to visit the Empress. The Empress asked how I was doing at the Shen residence. I didn't dare say a single bad thing. At that time, I knew my uncle had taken my father's position as minister and also became the head of the Shen family. Letting the Empress know would only make things difficult for her. But on the way back, walking along the long palace path, thinking of the joyful scenes when I used to come with my mother, I couldn't help but shed tears. Where did this ugly freak come from? Wearing such thick makeup, pretending to be a ghost here? That's when Meng Yang appeared. Too fierce, scared me into crying even harder, revealing the palm print under the makeup. Don't cry, my dear lady, who hit you? I'll hit them back for you, all right? You're not ugly, you're more beautiful than the gods in the sky. I won't marry anyone else, I'll marry you, okay? Oh dear, I'm begging you, I've never bowed to anyone in my life, but I'll bow to you. Will you forgive me? I didn't blame him. I took the handkerchief he gave me to wipe my tears, wanting to thank him for accompanying me through that difficult afternoon. But the handkerchief was discovered by my cousin. My cousin liked Meng Yang. She locked me up and beat me. Since then, I avoided him whenever I saw him, never interacting again. I was held by the general's wife, had dinner, and then returned. Meng Yang escorted me back. On the way, he was unusually silent, as if holding his breath. He didn't even escort me inside like before, turning away hurriedly at the door. Muttering something like, "A man who doesn't express grievances isn't a brave man, a man who doesn't avenge isn't a gentleman?" I really couldn't think of anyone in the capital who would dare to have a grudge against Meng Yang. I was so engrossed in pondering that I didn't notice how unusually quiet the courtyard was tonight. When I pushed open the room door, I heard a cool laugh behind me. "You are so tough, not returning home for 2 months. Because you have found a backer?" Xie MingChuan stepped into the moonlight, as if he had been waiting for a long time. Only 2 months, yet I suddenly found him very unfamiliar. Guardedly closed the room door. Turned around. "Marquis Xie visiting late at night, what brings you here?" Xie MingChuan didn't answer. Just smiled, "Let me guess. The moved dowry, the newly rented house, the general's residence carriage. Are you planning to use the general's residence to please the Shen family, so they'll take you in?" What nonsense. "Marquis Xie just returned to the capital today, you should go to your gentle abode and have a good sleep. Clear your head." I called the hired steward, "See the guest out." "Xin Yao Qin." Xie MingChuan stepped forward, grabbing my hand, "What do you mean by this?" "The dowry moved, the belongings moved, even the flowers and plants you've cared for over the years? Throwing a tantrum should have limits. A dignified marquis's wife, causing such a scene, aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Who is your marquis's wife?" A sudden realization struck me. I seemed to suddenly understand something. In disbelief, I looked at Xie MingChuan. "Xie MingChuan, the document I asked you to sign that day, you didn't even look at it?" Xie MingChuan frowned. "What document?" It was only at this moment that I realized. That divorce paper I had pondered over and hesitated about, so solemnly handed to him. He didn't even lift an eyelid for it. That's Xie MingChuan for you. He always has a way, when I feel I've reached the end of my rope, when there's no way forward, to continue humiliating me. Humiliating my feelings for him. "Yao Qin, you just want me to be anxious about you. But haven't you heard, imitating others can backfire? Now it's spread all over the capital, Meng Yang from the general's residence is discussing marriage." Xie MingChuan's mouth kept moving. Are you hoping to use your relationship with the Empress to marry Meng Yang into the Shin family? To use this favor to have the Shin family accept you? Stop dreaming. What kind of person is Meng Yang? Back then, he could choose any noble lady in the capital, and he didn't fancy a single one. Do you know what kind of looks and character your cousins have? Don't delude yourself. Slap. I raised my hand and slapped him, ending his chatter. Shin Yao Qin. I just want Meng Yang to marry into the Shin family, so what? Xie MingChuan was so angry his hand pointing at me was trembling. Fine. Fine. Have the guts to stay in the Shin family for the rest of your life. Don't come back to my marquee residence. Of course, I won't return to marquee residence again. Originally, I wouldn't even return to the Shin family. I had already agreed with the Empress that this time, when I marry again, everything would be kept simple. Even the betrothal gifts were to be omitted. But Meng Yang suddenly changed his mind. He said that as the only son of the general's residence, this was the only wedding in decades. It should be grand and lively. I had no argument against it, so I nodded in agreement. Coincidentally, the night Xie MingChuan came to find me, something unexpected happened at the Shin family. First, there was a fire in the storeroom, and although the rescue was timely, the losses were still significant. Then, something strange occurred. My uncle's beard, my aunt's hair bun, and even my cousin who had married out. All had their long hair mysteriously disappear overnight. The entire backyard was filled with ghostly wails and howls. The next day, a group of people came to my residence in a grand procession. They said that a high monk had advised them that only my return could suppress the evil spirits in the residence. Since the wedding was to be grand, I naturally couldn't marry from this temporary rented house. So I returned to the Shin family. Within half a month, all of the capital knew that the general's residence was to be allied with the Shin family through marriage. The betrothal gifts were delivered for a day and a night, filling the already large courtyard of the Shin family. On that day, news also came from Marquis Xie's residence. The mistress he had kept for 2 years was actually going to enter the residence in an 8-carriage sedan and become the primary wife. The betrothal gifts given were no less than those from the general's residence. The capital was bustling with excitement. I was not interested in joining the excitement. At the Shin family, it was not as free to come and go as in my own small residence. I simply stayed in my room reading books. Meng Yang always found ways to amuse people. He took over my small kitchen. My mother was from the south. He actually cooked southern dishes. The appearance was so peculiar it made people laugh. But the taste was impeccable. One day, while eating one of the dishes, I started to cry. Since my mother's passing, it had been many years since I tasted this flavor. Is it really that bad? If it's bad, I won't make it again, never again. I'll throw it away right now. Don't cry, my dear lady. His anxious, hopping demeanor reminded me of the young boy who used to scratch his head in frustration. I laughed again. Thus, until the eve of the wedding, with 10 days left before the marriage. After the wedding, I planned to go to the southern border with Meng Yang. Therefore, I went out to prepare some things for the journey south. They say enemies often cross paths. But I felt Luo Hanyan was deliberately blocking me. I went to the gold shop, and the jewelry I fancied, she took them all. I went to the rouge shop, and anything I glanced at, she had it all wrapped up. Even when I went to the pharmacy, she managed to follow with her graceful posture. Oh, the medicine you're picking, sister, is all for warding off evil and reducing heat. How troubled must you be? No wonder she's going to be the primary wife. Dressed flamboyantly from head to toe. No longer like before, in plain clothes, proud and aloof. I originally planned to buy some things you like, so when you return, we could use them together. But these cold medicines, I really can't agree with them, sister. She twisted her waist. Shopkeeper, bring some pregnancy-safe medicine. Oh, she's pregnant. No wonder she's so ostentatious, no longer playing the aloof role. Over 2 months now. She leaned close to my ear. It was conceived when Marquis Xie abandoned you and went to Southern to pursue me. I smiled while weighing the herbs in my hand, a match made in heaven, indeed. You. Luo Hanyan gritted her teeth. Then she laughed. Sister, why bother? Ignoring your husband's wedding and meddling in your family's marriage. Is the wedding dress ready? Marquis Xie booked all the brocade in the capital 2 months ago to ensure I'm the most glamorous bride in the capital. Oh. I paid the bill. A hen flying up to a branch should indeed dress up well. You. Luo Hanyan stomped her foot, blocking my path. Do you know when my wedding with Marquis Xie is? The 8th. She was extremely pleased, on the same day as the wedding at the Shen residence. So what if you're a phoenix? Trying to rely on your family to restrain Marquis Xie, I'm afraid it's too late. I wasn't interested in arguing with her. Move aside. She raised her chin and stuck out her belly. I walked around her. Suddenly, she exclaimed "Oh," and fell backward. Xin Yao Qin. Xie MingChuan hurriedly caught Luo Hanyan, frowned at me. I almost laughed out loud. He saw it. Luo Hanyan pretended to fall. Just as she mentioned the wedding date, he was standing at the pharmacy entrance. I met his gaze calmly. Xie MingChuan moved his lips, wanting to say something, but stopped at the tip of his tongue. Finally, he said coldly, "Xin Yao Qin. On the 8th, if you don't return to host the wedding, then you won't be the madam of the Marquis' residence." He carried Luo Hanyan horizontally and turned to leave. I don't even have the energy to be angry with Xie MingChuan anymore. I just find it amusing. Ordinary people might not know which girl from the Shen family the general's mansion is marrying. But most of the officials in the court have received the wedding invitation from the general's mansion. Even if Meng Yang didn't send an invitation to Marquis Mansion, he would know if he just asked around. The bride on the 8th is me. And yet, he still thinks I'll go back to preside over his wedding with Luo Hanyan on that day? I didn't pay much attention to this matter. I continued preparing the items needed for my trip to the southern border as planned. It's just that when I went out, I suddenly ran into Xie MingChuan more frequently. He didn't bother me. Sometimes we would lock eyes from a distance, and he would coldly look away. Sometimes we would brush past each other, expressionless, not even glancing at each other. I ignored him too. But I remembered the first year he started being cold to me. He thought I was clingy. He would drove me from the study to the front hall, and then from the front hall to the back courtyard. Whenever he found me annoying, he would give me the cold shoulder and ignore me. I knew he was angry, so I would try to appease him. "Hubby, tell me what I did wrong, and I'll change." He would sigh and gently stroke my hair. "Yao Qin, you haven't done anything wrong. It's just that I've been busy with work and have neglected you. You just need to be a little more obedient and listen to me." Hot and cold, ambiguous. Like training a dog with a slap and a treat. Soon, I had everything packed and ready. The wedding day was drawing closer. According to tradition, the bride and groom should not meet before the wedding. So Meng Yang hadn't come to the Shen mansion for a few days. Until the night before the wedding. The window knocked twice, opening a crack. This time, it wasn't a doll that came through, but a head. I was stunned for a moment, then burst out laughing. "Why didn't you come through the front door? Are you going to climb through the window?" I walked over to open the window for Meng Yang. But he stopped me. I rarely saw such bright eyes like his. He asked me, "Am I really going to marry you?" I nodded, yes. He asked again, "Are you really going to marry me?" I nodded, yes. "Oh, okay, I got it." With a bang, he put down the window and ran off. I shook my head with a smile, getting ready to wash up and rest. Just as I took down my hairpin, the window knocked again. "Why are you back?" I had just opened a small crack when I glimpsed a white corner of clothing. I froze. It was Xie MingChuan. He didn't speak. Nor did I. In the silence, the spring rain pattered against the window lattice. He was finally going to marry the girl he loved. On the eve of his wedding, his mind should be filled with thoughts of the bride. What was he doing here with me? I suddenly realized, perhaps Xie MingChuan didn't love Luo Hanyan that much. Nor did he loathe me that much. He just preferred what he couldn't have. Yao Qin. He spoke softly, his voice a bit hoarse. "Let's call it a draw, okay? Let's not be angry with each other anymore. I haven't had a good night's sleep since you left. Let's say I was wrong." His shadow was cast on the window. "I shouldn't have left you on your birthday. I promised to be with you every birthday. I shouldn't have neglected you time and again for Luo Hanyan. Come back with me. If you come back, tomorrow's wedding will be cancelled. I won't marry her, okay? I couldn't help but smile. To marry or not to marry, as if it were child's play. Don't hold it against her either. She's just young and naive. Let's stick to the original plan and let her be a concubine, okay? My wife will only be you. I closed the small gap in the window. Locked it. Xin Yao Qin. Xie MingChuan's voice suddenly turned cold. I've already humbled myself this much. What more do you want? A wife should follow her husband. Have you forgotten the basic duty of being a wife? I blew out the candle in the room. Outside, it was quiet for a moment. After a while, something heavy hit the window. Let's see how long you can be stubborn. I slept soundly through the night. The next day, before dawn, the bridal attendant came in to help me get dressed. TSK, who did this? The maid swept out a package of smashed peach blossom pastries from outside the window. During the first year of my marriage to Xie MingChuan, he often brought me a package when he returned from work. I would happily throw myself into his arms and say, "You treat me the best." The maid threw away the peach blossom pastries. I did not glance sideways. The bridal attendant was very skilled, applying makeup, styling hair, changing into the bridal gown, and covering the head. My aunt took me to worship our ancestors. My uncle supported me as I left the house. Meng Yang took my hand, his palm slightly damp. I looked at the wedding shoes under the veil and stepped into the flower sedan. Lady Shin, off to get married. The auspicious time was just right, and the wedding music was deafening. Groom, let go quickly, don't miss the auspicious time. The bridal attendant teased outside. Meng Yang slipped a candy into my hand. This was to prevent me from getting hungry. I popped it into my mouth. Sweet and sugary. Soon, the sedan started moving. The sedan swayed gently. I thought this marriage was quite satisfactory. My uncle and aunt seemed extremely afraid of Meng Yang. Not only did they make all the betrothal gifts my dowry, but even added the portion they had previously withheld from me. I thought, tomorrow I should visit my parents' graves. To tell them I didn't bring shame upon them, I got through it all. I felt that upon reaching the southern border, there would surely be a new world. Vast and free. The welcoming party from the Marquis's residence met with the people from the General's residence. I was still thinking, it's quite good. Today you marry another, and I remarry. May we both be well. But some people have shallow fates and deep grievances. As the sound of hooves approached, a sudden gust of wind blew. It lifted my curtain and uncovered my veil. Instinctively, I looked up. Our eyes met. The surroundings instantly quieted down. I calmly lowered the curtain and covered the veil again. Chaos erupted behind. Marquis. What's wrong, Marquis? Hurry up. Wedding invitation? What wedding invitation? Didn't you order to ban everything related to the Shin residents from entering the Marquis's residence? Marquis, be careful. The Marquis fell off his horse. I originally intended to keep things simple, just didn't want to stir up unnecessary trouble. Afraid it would cause the General's residence to be gossiped about behind their backs. However, I couldn't fulfill my wish in the end. Xie MingChuan actually fell off his horse, but seemed unharmed. When he hurried over, I had just finished the wedding ceremony with Meng Yang. Meng Yang! How dare you, relying on your power, ignoring the law to forcibly take my wife? I will report you. Who dares to stop me? Get out of my way. The hall was filled with guests. I instinctively wanted to step forward, but Meng Yang reached out to stop me. And softly said, "Let him in." I couldn't see Xie MingChuan's face at that moment, only through the gap in the veil. His bright red wedding attire seemed to have been through a lot, torn and tattered, with dirty mud all over the hem and shoes. Yao Qin, don't be afraid, I knew it. There must be a reason why you refused to return to the Marquis's residence. Did Meng Yang force you? You must know you love me deeply, how could you marry him? Humph, he relies on the Empress's support. Shut up! I couldn't help but reprimand him. Xie MingChuan seemed startled, standing there in a daze. Meng Yang took the opportunity to hold my hand, then gently lifted my veil. And softly said, "Honey, don't worry, with me here, everything will be fine." I looked into his clear bright eyes, my lips curled into a smile, nodding gently. Then I turned my gaze to Xie MingChuan. At that moment, I could almost see the despair in his expression. How could it be? Yao Qin, we are. I just looked at him coldly. His eyes gradually turning red, as if finally recalling what I had said to him before. The divorce letter has already been filed at the court. Marquis Xie can verify it at the capital prefecture. Upon hearing this, he staggered, taking a few steps back. Yao Qin, I didn't mean it, I originally thought. He seemed unwilling to give up, taking 2 steps forward, reaching out to grab my hand. I simply moved slightly, cleverly avoiding him. No matter what Marquis Xie thinks, in my heart, we have long been unrelated. Now I am Meng Yang's lawfully wedded wife, registered in the records. And you, today, must also marry your bride. Please hurry back, don't miss the auspicious time there, it's not good to keep the bride waiting. Humph, the dignified Marquis Xie, now in such an awkward state. I couldn't help but chuckle softly. Then returned the words he had once said to me, unchanged, to his ears. Making such a scene, aren't you afraid of being laughed at? Upon hearing this, he staggered again, taking 2 steps back, as if only then realizing the room was full of people, all staring at him. At this moment, his wedding attire was dirty, his hair disheveled, even the crown on his head had fallen off at some point. How could it be? How could it be? Saying this, he staggered backward. Wait. Just then, Meng Yang finally stepped forward, pulling me behind him, with a face full of anger. First you humiliate my aunt, then disrupt my wedding, and now you act wildly at my wedding hall. I've had enough of you. Saying this, he clenched his fists and charged at Xie MingChuan. In this way, both the general's mansion and the marquis mansion became the talk of the capital. Fortunately, most people were mocking Xie MingChuan, who was clueless about being divorced. Now the whole capital knows that General Meng doesn't care about Shen Yaoqin's status as a second-time bride. What he wants to marry is the former madam of the Marquis Xie's mansion. But as for Xie MingChuan, he actually chose to cause a scene at the wedding banquet on the wedding day. He ended up bedridden, truly bringing it upon himself. Ah, I sighed softly and asked Chunlan beside me, has the young general woken up? Taking advantage of the opportunity when Xie MingChuan was bedridden, and the Marquis' mansion was in chaos, I sent someone to deceitfully buy Chunlan out. Chunlan nodded eagerly, the young general is calling for the lady. I picked up the bowl of medicine and walked to his bedside. The moment I pushed open the door, his cries abruptly stopped. My dear, I'm fine, you don't need to worry, he hurriedly said. I sat down and fed him the medicine spoon by spoon, then stuffed a candied fruit into his mouth. Are you sure you don't need me to care for you? I nodded, took the empty bowl, and walked out of the room. Just as I stepped out, I heard his miserable cries from inside. Oh, it hurts so much. My dear, I'm afraid this leg of mine is going to be useless. I pushed the door open and walked back into the room. His cries immediately stopped. I walked to the bedside, put down the bowl, and gently said, let me see where exactly you're hurt. Saying this, I bent down to pull off his pants. My dear, my dear. Meng Yang suddenly blushed, scrambling to hide further into the bed. I couldn't help but sigh and sat back down. Isn't this guy perfectly fine? That day I saw clearly, when he was hitting Xie MingChuan, his moves were quick and precise, aiming directly at the vital spots. Xie MingChuan, a frail scholar, could at most scratch his skin. Even though they were both summoned to the palace, he came out perfectly fine. But now he's complaining about leg pain, as if he's dying. My dear, he suddenly rolled back, tightly holding onto my sleeve, you won't leave me, will you? His acting skills are far inferior to Luo Hanyan's. I shook my head and firmly said, no, I won't. Then tell me. He put on a pitiful expression, completely different from the fierce look he had when he was hitting Xie MingChuan earlier. After divorcing Xie MingChuan, when you went to the palace to see my aunt, what did she say about me? So that's what it was about. I immediately felt relieved. I stood up, walked out of the room. Dear, I returned to the room. Started packing. That day, when the Empress mentioned Meng Yang to me, you don't know him, She covered her mouth and leaned close to my ear, whispering 4 words, a penchant for men. So at that time, I truly thought he was the most suitable choice. No need to worry about disputes among concubines, nor about issues of offspring. No need for romance. Just hold the position of the main wife for him. Maybe when he gets older, adopting a child could ease the elders' minds. My dear. I really didn't know about this. Before the marriage, Aunt didn't mention a single word about it. I didn't mean to deceive you. As I was packing, Meng Yang suddenly didn't have leg pain or backache anymore. He paced around me. My dear, you promised you wouldn't abandon me. My dear, I don't like men. I don't like women. I don't feel anything for anyone. He tugged at my sleeve, eyes brimming with tears, just like you. I stopped what I was doing. Looked at him. I know. I'm not a child. I don't just believe whatever others say. I have my own judgment. The hardest things for people to hide are the sneezes they can't hold back and the look in their eyes when they see their beloved. Being stared at with such intense eyes every day, how could I not notice? Meng Yang suddenly looked like a deflated balloon. The light in his eyes vanished. He let go of my sleeve, retreating a few steps in a panic. What I mean is, I, in turn, grabbed his sleeve. Do you mind? Right now. I might not be able to love you the way you love me. I lowered my voice. I also don't know if I can love you like that in the future. I don't know if I can ever love someone wholeheartedly again. But I know. Sincere feelings should not be taken lightly. But I want to try. I looked at Meng Yang. Are you willing? Meng Yang's previously dejected eyes instantly turned red. He stepped forward and hugged me tightly. My nose tingled, and I gently patted his back. Then why don't you quickly help and pack the luggage? He pretended to be sick and delayed for so long. We should pack up and set off for the southern border. On the day of departure, quite a few people came to see us off. The Empress was the one most reluctant to let us go. She called Meng Yang aside and spoke to him for a long, long time. Finally, she handed me a token. With this token, we could travel freely between towns without needing a travel permit. She urged me to return to the capital to find her if I ever felt bullied. As I stepped onto the carriage, I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination. It seemed as though someone was leaning on a cane, limping, and hopping towards the city gate. Not long after, it sounded like someone was shouting Marquis, followed by the sound of horse hooves. The sound of hooves was chasing after the carriage we were in. Yao Qin! Yao Qin! Amidst the rumbling sound of the carriage wheels, there came a faint shout. Yao Qin, turn around. Look back at me! I looked out the carriage window. The morning sun was bright and dazzling. My husband was dressed in military attire, standing tall, with his sword-like eyebrows curved into a smile at me. I did not turn back. Extra, after marriage. Half a year after marriage, Meng Yang and I still hadn't consummated our marriage. He never brought up the matter, and I felt a bit embarrassed, so I didn't mention it either. Until the new year, when he received orders to return to the capital, I went back to the general's residence with him. Actually, we slept on the same bed every day, and it was quite peaceful. But Xie MingChuan would often come looking for me. He and Luo Hanyan still hadn't married, and he hadn't even given Luo Hanyan the status of a concubine. It's said that Luo Hanyan no longer runs away like she used to, but instead often seeks death. Often, when things don't go her way, she threatens to jump into the lake or hang herself. As if she can't live without Xie MingChuan. On our first day back in the capital, we saw her standing by the moat, heavily pregnant at 9 months. She said fiercely to Xie MingChuan, "You're always absent-minded, lost in thought. Are you hoping that woman will return? She's already someone else's wife now, and she betrayed you. If you dare look at her one more time, I'll die right here." As soon as she finished speaking, she somehow slipped and fell into the river. In the freezing cold of winter, the river water was bone-chilling. As a result, she couldn't save the child and nearly lost her life. Since then, Xie MingChuan often appeared outside the general's residence. Of course, not inside, but standing quietly outside the courtyard wall adjacent to Meng Yang's and my room. Like a wandering soul. I always felt uneasy, creepy, thinking about whether to change rooms. Meng Yang firmly refused. He even said, "Am I supposed to be afraid of him?" Then, he began his performance. After spending half a year with Meng Yang day and night, I thought I understood his character. But I didn't expect him to always do things that surprised me. Oh no, they were shocking. "Ah, dear, be gentle. Dear, faster, faster." He deliberately pinched his voice, mimicking that soft voice so vividly. That manner made people blush. I really couldn't listen any longer and asked him to stop, but he wouldn't. He said it would make people doubt his abilities. I had no choice but to hold his head and directly block his mouth. He instantly froze. But in the next second, his face turned red, with a hint of grievance. "Honey, kiss me again?" His eyes seemed to be filled with ink, deep and alluring. I couldn't resist the temptation and kissed him again. And that was it, he took the lead, and I was completely captivated. After that, no one ever doubted his abilities again. A year after our marriage, I became pregnant. Over the years, the border has remained peaceful, so Meng Yang applied for a transfer order and took me back to the capital with him. In just half a year, many things seemed to have changed. The Luo Hanyan who once wanted to throw herself into the river no longer existed. I heard that after she lost her child, she spent her days in the Marquis's residence seeking death. One night, she suddenly went mad and set fire to the bed curtains. Unfortunately, she couldn't be saved in the end, and the entire Marquis's residence was engulfed in flames. Most of the property in the residence turned to ashes, and even half of Xie MingChuan's face was burned. So, during this trip to the capital, I didn't see Xie MingChuan lurking outside the courtyard anymore. Actually, I encountered him twice. Once, Meng Yang took me to listen to music. When we came out of the tavern, I saw a figure in plain clothes standing downstairs, looking around. Thinking back to that wedding banquet a year ago, he embarrassed the empress in public, angering the emperor, who directly reduced his title. The fire 6 months ago ruined his appearance and cost him his official position. Now, he no longer wore luxurious clothes daily, surrounded by many servants, appearing glorious. As soon as I stepped downstairs, that figure vanished without a trace. Another time, our residence received a letter from a stranger. At that time, Meng Yang and I were about to go out, and I saw the back of the person delivering the letter. When we opened the letter, it only contained one sentence. In youth, I didn't recognize true feelings, mistaking fish eyes for pearls. Meng Yang laughed disdainfully upon hearing it. Already in his late 20s, yet still calls himself young, utterly shameless. With that, he tore the letter into pieces. In the 5th year of our marriage, my daughter Zihan was already 3 years old. The little one was lively and adorable, bouncing around all day, endearing to everyone. By this time, I had fully adapted to life in the general's residence. With loving in-laws and children around, life was comfortable and fulfilling. Meng Yang would still frequently go to the border. Sometimes, it was for border inspection missions, taking at most 1 or 2 months for a round trip. Other times, when war suddenly broke out, he might not return for 3 to 5 months, or even longer. This time, he seemed to have been gone for a while, from early spring in March until the golden autumn season. One morning, good news spread through the residence. The entire general's residence was jubilant, decorated with lanterns and streamers, eagerly awaiting his triumphant return. Zihan couldn't wait any longer, persistently asking me to take her to the street to wait. I couldn't refuse her, so I agreed. On the street, the lively little one ran ahead, playing joyfully. But soon, she was nowhere to be seen. When I finally found her, I saw a man squatting on the ground, speaking softly to Zihan. At that moment, my mind was only on Zihan, focused on finding the child, not noticing who the man was. But judging by his attire, life seemed to be difficult for him, with his plain clothes full of patches. Even so, he bought Zihan a pack of peach blossom pastries. Just as I was about to approach and greet him, Zihan's eyes suddenly lit up. "Daddy." With that shout, the pack of peach blossom pastries fell to the ground. Zihan then ran forward with all her might. I also saw Meng Yang. "Dear!" I instinctively called out. The man who had been squatting on the ground suddenly froze. I passed by him and, together with Zihan, threw myself into Meng Yang's arms. I don't know if it was my imagination, but someone behind me suddenly began to cry, covering their face. I didn't pay attention and didn't turn back. Because my husband was saying to me, "I've learned a few new dishes, dear, let me cook them for you when we get home." I happily held his hand and replied, "All right." Extra story, Meng Yang. Meng Yang grew up amidst beatings and scoldings. He was the only son in the general's mansion, and the old lady couldn't bear to send him to the battlefield. But this child had no interest in studying. Every time he tore up a book, it would earn him a beating from the old general. For some reason, after all those beatings, he became someone who feared nothing, earning the nickname Ghost's Bane in the martial world. Although he didn't learn much from books, Meng Yang had a clear understanding of basic rights and wrongs and moral principles. "A gentleman's promise is worth 1,000 gold," was a phrase he remembered well. He had promised that little girl he would marry no one but her, and he remembered it to this day. It's just that the little girl seemed quite afraid of him. He blamed himself for being too fierce, always scaring people with a stern face. Meng Yang sent someone to deliver medicine to her, but he didn't know if she received it. He also threatened Xie Junhao from the Xin family, leaving him with harsh words, warning that if anyone dared to bully that little girl, he'd shave the heads of their entire family. Before heading to the frontier, Meng Yang couldn't put his mind at ease. He found the Empress and tugged at her sleeve, pleading, "Aunt, I noticed that girl who often comes to pay respects to you. Is her name Yao Qin? She's living a tough life. You must help me look after her." In fact, he knew very well that the girl's name was Xin Yao Qin. But he had always been carefree and unrestrained since childhood. He didn't want others to see how much he cared for a girl, for fear of being laughed at. Fortunately, the Empress remembered his words. Not long after Meng Yang arrived in the southern frontier, he received a letter from the Empress. "Aunt is in the palace, and many things are beyond my control. Marquis Xie and Xie Junhao are good friends. I've already asked him to help look after the little girl." Only then did Meng Yang feel relieved. In the following days, every time Meng Yang returned to the capital, he would go to see his little girl. He wanted to talk to her properly and show her everything he had learned over the years. He prepared many precious gifts for the little girl. But every time she saw him, she would run away as if she had seen some terrifying monster. Meng Yang pondered, "Well, it seems she doesn't like me." But he wasn't discouraged. Meng Yang thought, in this world, everyone learns to be liked slowly. He began to learn impressive light skills. Learned various puppet shows to make people laugh. Learned exquisite vocal mimicry, able to imitate all kinds of sounds. Hearing that Xin Yao Qin's mother was from the south, he humbly sought advice from soldiers of southern origin in the camp and learned to cook authentic southern dishes. Year after year, he hoped and waited for his little girl to grow up quickly. The year Xin Yao Qin came of age, there happened to be a tough battle to fight in the southern frontier. Meng Yang's heart leaped with joy. This was a godsend opportunity. He secretly vowed to win this battle. When he returned to the capital in glory, he would use his military achievements to ask for his little girl's hand in marriage. Of course, Meng Yang also understood that marriage was usually arranged by matchmakers. And many couples had never met before marriage. But his little girl was different. What if their wedding night turned into a disaster? Meng Yang imagined this proposal campaign countless times in his mind. In every battle, while fighting on the battlefield, he was also thinking about how to make the little girl happy. He won battle after battle, each time thinking, once this is won, I'll return to the capital. With the new skills he had learned, he would make Xin Yao Qin happy, make her like him, and agree to marry him. Then, in front of the entire court, he would use his illustrious military achievements to exchange for that piece of paper carrying happiness, the marriage certificate. He wanted to make her the happiest bride in the world. Heaven did not disappoint those who strive, and Meng Yang finally won the tough battle. Upon waking from his severe injuries, the first thing he wanted to do was write a letter to his aunt to share the good news. But at that moment, a letter from his aunt arrived first. Meng Yang unfolded the letter and read, "Do you still remember Xin Yao Qin? Your casual words back then have led to a wonderful event now. I have granted marriage between Yao Qin and Marquis Xie. The two are a perfect match, and they will be married soon." Meng Yang looked at the letter, doubting if he was dreaming. But he punched his wound, and didn't wake up. Punched again, still didn't wake up. Only then did he clearly feel that his heart seemed to be breaking inch by inch. So this is what a broken heart feels like. Meng Yang casually grabbed a horse, ignoring the military doctor's advice, and headed straight for the capital. Along the way, he changed several horses, not knowing how long he had been running. But he didn't want to stop for a moment. He had to go back and get to the bottom of things. He had said he would marry her, didn't she remember? Why didn't she wait for him? When Meng Yang arrived in the capital, it was night. On the capital street, red silk fluttered, joyous music filled the air. Covered in tattered clothes and fresh blood, he brushed past the groom. Seeing the smiles on everyone's faces and hearing the continuous congratulations around him, Meng Yang felt a deep bitterness. He turned back and saw the bridal sedan tilt, a hand reaching out from inside. And as the bride stepped out, she was steadily held by the groom beside her. Fireworks blossomed brilliantly overhead, the bride and groom stood side by side, happiness radiating. Meng Yang dismounted silently, found a corner, and couldn't hold back his tears. Meng Yang thought this was how his life would be. He no longer returned to the capital, no longer dreamed. No longer thought about his little girl. Until one day, another letter arrived from the palace. The letter contained only 3 short sentences. Great news! Xin Yaoqin and Xie MingChuan have divorced. Will you still marry her?